Bold action is what builds your confidence, not the other way around. You are uncomfortable, underconfident, and you act anyway. Boldness is a life skill, a learnable life skill, and it's a superpower. And the younger you learn it, the more profoundly wonderful and satisfying and fulfilling your life will be. And they said, yeah, that's great. How?
Welcome back to Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mike DiCioccio, and today our guest is a best-selling author, an international keynote speaker, and a business advisor. He co-founded the most successful dentist referral service in the country, 1-800-DENTIST, which generated over $1 billion in revenue while he was CEO. His book, Superbold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days, is a Wall Street Journal and Amazon bestseller. Welcome to the show, Fred Joyal.
Mike, awesome to be here. And thank you for saying the D on the end of Superbold, because some people think it's a book about football.
Oh, man. And it might be hard for you to see, but I'm rocking my Buffalo Bills hat right here.
Oh, so very nice.
Super Bowls are a little bit of a sore subject. We got an opportunity right now as we record this. I don't know when this episode will come out, but as we record this, it's the week, a couple days actually before Wild Card Weekend. So I'm a huge Bills fan, huge football fan. Funny you said that, but yeah, we're talking Superbold here with Fred, B-O-L-D. And one of the things that I always talk about on the show is be brave and bold in pursuit of your dreams. So boldness is a topic we cover on the show quite a bit, and it's kind of a common theme. So it's great to have you on the show. If you guys are not familiar with Fred, you're going to do that by checking out the show notes. You got his website, his social media, his book is there. You can click on it, go directly to his site and check out the book and all the other resources. If we talk about anything, Fred, that you want us to link, just let me know and we'll make sure we have that in the show notes for you and in the description for those that are tuning in on YouTube. We appreciate you guys being with us. If you love the conversation, you guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff so you can check out all of our other great episodes. Let's get right into your story, Fred. I was doing some homework on you, and I laughed within 3 seconds of landing on your LinkedIn, because the first thing I noticed is that you consider yourself a former introvert. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So I'd love you to share a little bit about like what made that change for you, and what would you tell leaders who maybe feel like their personality, if they're more introverted, may be holding them back?
I think it's don't define yourself as an introvert. Define yourself as someone who likes to spend time alone and accomplish things alone and feels socially uncomfortable in some situations. I mean, I just felt socially uncomfortable in most situations. I behaved in a very shy way. You notice I didn't say I was shy. I behaved in a shy way while I was growing up into my 20s. But it frustrated me because I kept missing opportunities. And instead of getting an experience or a date or a promotion, I got a regret. And I said, I have to fix this. And so I just started emulating bold people, and it made me incredibly uncomfortable, except that good things started to happen. And I started to get more comfortable and better things started to happen. And then I just started to feel confident about who I was and just bring that out to the world and not worry about what detractors might think or somebody, he
not
needs
worried about
attention.
the outcome, focus on the process of it, right? It's kind of like the outcome's going to happen. But if I come at this more confident, I feel the outcome's going to have a better chance of what I want it to be. Would you also say that, I kind of always cringed at this statement, but there is some truth to it. The fake it till you make it. Is that a little bit of the mentality you have to have? Or do you need to believe it for it to be genuine and authentic for people to actually buy it?
The real thing, that a much better way to say it and a much clearer way to look at it is you are acting into a new way of thinking rather than trying to think your way into a new way of acting.
I like
And,
that. Okay.
and that's a
So the
big,
brain has to come first. The body reacts to what the brain's thinking.
what the brain says, oh, we're going to do this, even though we're uncomfortable. The fallacy is that people say, I would be bolder if I were more confident. The reality is, if you're confident, you don't need boldness. You're confident. I play guitar. I'm going to go play guitar. I'm confident about it. I'm terrible on stage. I'm not confident about it. What builds your confidence is bold action when you don't know how it's going to go. But you have to control the intensity of that venture into boldness. And we can talk in detail about it. But bold action is what builds your confidence, not the other way around. You are uncomfortable, underconfident, and you act anyway.
I like that. It's, in anything in life, talked about guitar just a second ago. We talked about football at the top of the show. Reps. The more reps you get, the more success you have with those reps, the more your confidence builds over time. If you don't take the reps, right? And even like early on, if you're a rookie, it's your first game, you have to mentally be like, I got this. Like, I know I'm as good as these other people on the field, and I'm going to win the game today. I'm going to win each play. And then you get burned, and it's like, okay, come right back, and you got to have that same self-belief, right? And it all starts, the greatest athletes, the greatest business people, the first thing and the most common thing they all have in like the common denominator is self-belief, right? Without that, your chance of really getting where you want to go. And, again, talking about football, I'll make another analogy. I was just listening to a couple of interviews while I was working earlier, and in the background, it caught my attention. A lot of times players will say they don't rise up in the postseason, in the playoffs, right? They don't have to bring their game to another level, right? Because what happens is you play to your floor. You don't raise a ceiling, you play to your floor. So your preparation, your actions you take, watching film, being on time, doing all the right things. Now in the playoffs, you just do everything as you were all season, and your floor is going to be great because you're locked in. If you try to all of a sudden become someone who you haven't been all season, that's when you get in your own head and you kind of goof up. Taking it back a step, going back 32 years. That's where we're going on the timeline, everybody. Hop in the DeLorean. We're going back 32 years ago. You created 1-800-DENTIST. I mentioned it in the bio there. Can you share what actually, you were doing before that, like leading up to it? And then what the heck inspired you to create 1-800-DENTIST? Like, when did the aha moment happen? And then the third part of it would be, how did you turn it into over $1 billion in success?
I was working in the advertising world as a copywriter. And that was when I really started to flex my boldness, because I was being rewarded for not only my creativity, but my ability to present to clients, because I would just act out the commercials, because I was in my sweet spot. I was in my tribe. And it just kept expanding my boldness. And I really loved the advertising world, but I really wanted to have my own business. And I just stumbled into that phone number. I knew nothing about dentistry. I had never run a business before. And I was young and naive enough to think I could pull it off. It takes a certain level of not knowing how bad it could go.
Was it like you realized the word dentist was 7 figure?
No, a friend of mine had the phone number. He hooked it up when 800 numbers came out. He just didn't do anything with it. And then he saw me working in advertising, and he said, I think you could turn this into a business. And I said, well, I'm not going to work with you because you don't work, right? He was like the laziest guy ever, but he had this moment of brilliance.
Thank you for the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my other good friend of mine, who was a stockbroker, we quit our jobs and we just beat the streets and found 18 dentists in Los Angeles who would go along with it. Now, you got to realize the advertising wasn't happening. It was the yellow pages. That's how dentists promoted their practice. We got a tremendous amount of headwind and backlash from the community for promoting dentistry. Until 20 years later, they were thanking me for spending $500 million in television advertising over the 28 years I ran the company.
I'm just really curious there. Why were you getting backlash about being in the yellow pages? Because that's how everybody found you at that time.
Well, no, we were running TV ads, and we were promoting our dentists, but we were saying, if you want a great dentist, call us. And they said, "Oh, it's unprofessional to promote dentistry." I said, "Well, guess what? People aren't thinking about going to the dentist or taking care of their teeth. We're reminding them that they need to." We sent way more patients to dentists who weren't our clients because we were this constant reminder. I mean, we were on TV constantly. Like I said, $500 million over the.
How does a directory work, Fred? Like, so how does someone get into your directory? Is that what you're doing? You're cold calling saying, "Hey, we're going to help you get more business if you apply to be in our 1-800 dentist directory." And is there part and they had to pay to play, or how'd that work?
Yeah. They paid us to be part of the service, but we were screening them ahead of time because our reputation as a brand mattered more than any individual dentist. So we were technically like Yelp and Google before either one existed, because we had more information than they could get. And we had sent dozens and dozens of people to our clients without complaint, or with the opposite, with like, "I'm so glad I found her. She's amazing. I've been avoiding the dentist for 15 years. But we ran a live call center, 100-seat call center, 24/7, 365, talking to people and helping them find a dentist. We were this empathetic voice helping them to take care of themselves. And that's why the business thrived, is people needed to talk to somebody about a dentist before they went to them.
I love that. And I love the fact that anyone tuning in right now, we have a wide range of people tuning in, I'm sure. But a lot of the stories on the show are early stage entrepreneurship, taking the leap. And then once you take that leap, now what, right? You got to get a product or service into the market. There's multiple iterations of it, right? There's the crash and burn stories, to build it back up, the multiple versions of what it's going to look like. The thing I love about your idea is it was just a creative idea a buddy had. You ran with it, took it to market, figured out how to make it all work. But what was great about it is the simplicity of everyone understands. Call this simple number. Not going to forget it. 1-800-DENTIST. It sticks with you. And then you had a people element that I hear right here, where I'm going to call you. I might have a dentist problem. It's a personal thing. But now they got someone empathetic on the other line. Hey, I'm going to set you up with the right person. Tell me about what's going on. Oh, we have, 5 specialists. And where are you? You're in the Philadelphia area. We got great people right around the corner from you. And I love how a real simple idea from your buddy turned into this amazing thing. And then how it just kept like flowering over time and getting greater and greater over time. That being said, like any business, it's inevitable. You do run into challenges. And I'll tell you what I've learned is the bigger your business, the bigger your problems. It's like more money, more problems. That whole saying?
Well, yeah.
What about scaling this thing, man? What were some of your challenges of scaling that company?
Well, the bigger you are, the bigger the bullseye on you. Because there's lawyers looking for you, to try to find a way to litigate and take some of your money. But our biggest thing was the first challenge we faced, because you're going to face challenges. You're going to hit walls in terms of scaling. And what we hit was we had given away exclusive areas to dentists. So we said, like, this whole zip code or these 2 zip codes are yours. What happened is that stifled the growth of the business and frustrated the people calling, because they went like, "You don't have any other dentist besides this doctor in this whole area?" So
it's good for the dentist, not great for the
dentist loved it because they wanted the real estate,
Right. But now you got a user problem, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah. So we had to tell all of our clients at that point. We had 100 clients in LA, and we said, "Look, we have to change the model." And 98 of them went along with it. 2 of them sued us, and we spent some time litigating it, and they eventually settled. But that was the only way that we got to 3,500 practices, was that we pivoted the model, which was, we had written contracts. We had to say to the guys, "Look, we will eventually fail as a business if we don't revise this contract. So either you want us to keep helping you, or you want us to go away." Which
you either get zero help from us, or we can be a helpful service to you, but you got to play nice with others. Like it's there's only one decision to be made, play nice with others, or go and fly on your own.
Yeah. And so that was, and over time, we went through two recessions and 9/11 and anything that could happen in business was happening to us. We were in steady growth mode until 2007, when we saw all the home equity lines of credit that people had were collapsing in on themselves, and people's mortgages were getting recalled and stuff. And all of a sudden our calls dropped, which had never happened. I mean, it would happen slightly. So we would just spend a little more money and we'd come right back up. Well, we had 3 months in a row.
It was a necessity. Is that kind of why you felt it happened? Like people had to pay the light, get the roof over their head, keep the lights on for their family, food in the refrigerator. And they're like, we'll push off the dental thing for now.
Oh yeah. You can put it off. Enamel's a resilient bone in the body,
Yeah.
And you can do emergency stuff. People were doing much more. They were doing, veneers and things like that, because they could charge it to their mortgage. They could charge it to their equity line of credit. All of a sudden they couldn't. And the rates were going up, and they just stopped spending. They just got nervous. So we had to circle the wagons and find a way to protect our doctors and help them adjust to the type of dentistry that they were doing, that they were offering. Instead of offering the aesthetic side, they had to adjust themselves. And we were coaching them because we saw it coming. We were like a canary in a coal mine. We said, like, this never happens 2 months in a row. And all of a sudden we're spending more money and getting less 2 months in a row than 3 months in a row. And we said, all right, we need to pay attention to what's going on and fix it. And, and we got through it because we were paying attention. You can't take your eye off stuff because the economy will affect you. You last long enough.
Let me ask you though, Fred, like, this is a really good example, because anyone who's been in business for a handful of years now experienced the pandemic. And so some people have experienced surviving that. Maybe they didn't do the 08, 09 with the Lehman's crash you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So they maybe haven't experienced that, but you've experienced that and then some. Also 9/11, there was a lot of uncertainty around business because of what's going on in the world, and is this going to be, World War III and all this other stuff. People were really, rightfully so, kind of worried at that moment. What would you say is like a key component or factor, something you guys did as a business decision that, like, because we did this, it helped us forge through?
I think it was that we had a culture that was so strong that when we said, okay, we're in a really tight spot, and I gave myself, my top executives and me, we gave ourselves a major pay cut. We cut some staff. We cut people's, at the VP level, we cut their income 10%, and everybody went like, we understand. I said, like, what we need to stay afloat here, because you love it here and you want this to continue. And then, one of our executives, this is it. Like, you just get up every day and say, let's figure out what we're going to do. You can't sit there and go, oh, the sky is falling, and just mope about it or complain about it. You get 10 seconds to grouse about it, and now you need a plan of action. So what we did is we went to our doctors and we said, if you pay us a year in advance, we'll give you 10% off. And a staggering number of guys did it. And all of a sudden we just had the cash we needed. Now we had to earn our way out of that discount, but we kicked the can way down the field because of it. And we had the money we needed to dig ourselves out of that tight spot.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea.
Stuff like that.
I've had a mentor tell me the same thing through a rough time. He's like, hey, you have people on 6-month and 12-month contracts. I call them agreements. I like the word agreement. Contract feels a little bit like a,
legal,
a legal or marital thing. It's like, no, there's an agreement. We're working together. We're partners. And it's 6 or 12 months, but everybody gets to pay monthly, right? Unless they want to, like when they first sign up with us, we'll give them a break if they do like 12 months up front. But, someone said to me, like, hey, at the end of a year, a lot of businesses want to like dump as much expenses as they can in December, because they're trying to lower, with their taxable income or revenue looks like, and they may be, trying to do that right now. So once you reach out to them And I did. And like 2/3 of the people I reached out to were super happy. Like, oh my God, that's a great idea. Let's do it. I'll pay for 6 months right now. And I didn't know that it was going to be that easy. And obviously it does. Like you said, it buys you some runway. But then you got to do the right things following that. So then in 6 months, you're not like, oh, where's that? Where's that revenue?
No actual revenue.
you already got it. You got paid in January or December. So I like that idea. You kept the course. And I like that you said the team bought in because they understood. So it sounds like your leadership style was very transparent. You weren't kind of walking around the office on eggshells. You're like, this is where we're at. This is what we're going to do. And we need to move forward. And we talked about it a moment ago, being bold. You were already acting boldly at that point in time. You wrote the book Superbold, focusing on building confidence. So was there a moment that you'd say there's kind of a light bulb where you knew, hey, I'm going to write this book about this concept of being bold and how it really is like a required element to be successful?
Yeah, I realized the impact boldness had on my life, and I was talking to a group of high school students put on by a longtime friend of mine, Dr. Bill Dorfman, who you've had on as a guest yourself. And he runs this LEAP organization, which teaches life skills to young people. And I was lecturing, and one of the things I said is boldness is a life skill, a learnable life skill, and it's a superpower. And the younger you learn it, the more profoundly wonderful and satisfying and fulfilling your life will be. And they said, yeah, that's great. How?
Right.
And I said,
that was my next question to you is, okay, how can someone who's maybe underconfident start becoming more bold?
It's by taking bold action to build your boldness like a muscle. So just like when you do exercise, you start gradually, but you have to be uncomfortable. You have to strain yourself or you get no results. So it's the same thing building your boldness muscle. You have to do something that makes you uncomfortable, but the consequences are low because when you're exercising, I tell people this, what's the most important rep when you exercise? They'll say,
I'd say the first one. Yeah.
It's the one after the last one. Yeah. It's the one you can't do because that's the maximum growth happens in the last few reps. Now you're not wrong. Starting is really important, but in terms of growth,
right.
It's the last
6, 7,
reps.
8 or 8, 9, 10 reps if you're doing 10.
Yeah. And trying to do 11. And that's where, and it's that same, you're actually deliberately aiming for failure when you exercise because that's the maximum result. Because there's no consequences to failure, right? In exercise. So transfer that thinking to building your boldness muscle by doing bold things where the consequences are inconsequential. Talk to a stranger, offer them a nice compliment. I mean, this is people say, well, how do I start? It's like, talk to strangers everywhere you go.
Be nice to the cashier or,
say
you go
their
into the
name.
Grocery store, like come out of the grocery store and talk to 2 people, one person when you're shopping and maybe more than just here's my credit card when you're buying your groceries, but like, hey, how was your day today? Like, what are you looking forward to doing tonight? Or you getting out? What time do you get out of here? What do you look? Something more than just transactional conversation.
Yeah. And what I tell people is that the number one tool you have in your meet a stranger toolkit is a compliment. Just a casual, what I call a drive-by compliment. You're not expecting anything, even a thank you in return. You just go, hey, those glasses look great on you, man. That color, you really discovered something. And that's it. You have no agenda. You're building your boldness muscle.
They just lifted a 10-pounder, at the gym. They just took a little rep. They got some motion going.
And and what happens is 99 times out of 100, they really appreciate it. So they feel better and you feel better doing it.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it's just, so now in my book, I keep upping the ante. So I keep moving them up into bolder and bolder exercises as they expand their comfort zone. Say, all right, well, you got to strain yourself a little bit more. Now you got to go do karaoke, even though you can't sing. You got to start finding this stuff where there's no consequences except in your head, which is where all the consequences are, right?
So true. Now, walk us on that tightrope. So someone's starting to break out of their comfort zone. When does becoming bold teeter on maybe becoming arrogant? There's a fine line there maybe for some people.
I think that's the boldness isn't about needing attention or being a show off. It's about chasing your dreams and not stopping yourself from doing it. And
Good.
chasing, what you want to achieve. I mean, maybe you just want to be a great dad, which means you can't be a helicopter dad. You can't be a lawnmower dad. That's not bold. That's,
you gotta like that went over my
difficulty, head.
That went over my head. What's a helicopter dad? Just flying above.
Oh, they protect the helicopter dad is hovering, and mom is hovering over, making sure that the child experiences no difficulties, no challenges, no suffering. They get a reward for everything. If they get a B, they go right into the school and they try to get an A for that student, even though he's a frickin' C student and the teacher was generous and gave him a B. A lawnmower parent just tries to clear the path so that the child experiences no challenges, no difficulty whatsoever. So at the end, they have no resilience whatsoever.
No pushback. Yeah, they live a life of no tension, and then when they get to the real world, they're like, everything is much more difficult because you're so used to no pushback. Yeah,
they need a support dog to brush their teeth at that point. It's like they were not. And I use the example of my mother because it's the most profound. My brother, my older brother, had polio as an infant. My mom never treated him like he was disabled. That she did everything to help him, but she let him go out and play with all the other kids, and he came in bleeding almost every day because he couldn't catch. He was missing all sorts of muscles in his body, but she let him be a normal child, and because of it, he realized way more capability than any doctor predicted he would have. That's the point awesome. Where he could ride motorcycles. He was an auto mechanic. He did stuff that you look at him, you go like, that's not physically possible. You have no deltoid muscles. You have no pecs. How are you doing this?
His belief was equal to someone who had far greater physical, ability.
Imagine how that felt when he's, you've sent him outside to play and he's coming in bleeding. And all he wants to do is get taped up and get sent back outside. Go back
out there.
But she's agonizing. She was like, that takes boldness, because it's like, I'm willing to take the incredible discomfort of letting my son fall rather than.
And this is your older brother?
Yeah. So
would you say you learned from that directly, that experience? And now you're learning, like, look at him go. And, almost like you don't have excuses. I'm going to be more bold too. Would you say?
Yeah, I got that problem. I got nothing to whine about. That was my child.
Yeah. That could be a bad thing though, too, because, we're humans and you got to little Freddie makes him stubs his toe. Like, let's give him a moment. And like you said it earlier in business, you get knocked down. Yeah. You're on the mat for a little while. It's okay to be on that mat and to feel it and to really feel it and to work through it and be human. But then you do have to get up off the mat at some point. You can't sulk and turn it into a week and a month. And no, I'm not doing anything for 6 months because of a bad situation. And I get it. The deeper and the more painful and devastating things. Just had a family member go through something really horrific. And I don't know how long it's going to take them, if ever, to really go through it, work through it. But at some point you do get up off the mat and then you put your first foot, your second foot forward, and you got to keep moving. Right. So, you did that. And it sounds like obviously, you were pretty bold even from a young age, would you say? Or no, actually, no, your LinkedIn bio said you were introverted. So talk about that.
Well, that's because my mom was so bold that she didn't understand my introversion. And my reluctance, my hesitation, because that's That's what drives most of your lack of boldness is you feel underconfident, so you hesitate, and the opportunities go away.
Mhm.
And if you miss enough of them, I say, like, mine your regrets, dig deep into your regrets. Don't suppress them, bring them right up and look at them and go like, yeah, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to hear 2 years later that this girl was really interested in me, or this guy was really interested in me. And if I had only talked to them, you don't want that anymore. And you don't want to get to be 57 years old and saying, I really should have started a business. Because that's
Mhm.
what people end up doing. They end up getting to their deathbed with a stack of regrets of I
Yeah.
should have. And it's
Yeah.
too late.
A binder of
Yep.
them for some
Yeah.
folks. Here we are. Yeah. Guys, listen to Fred's story right here. An introvert who's now getting paid to be up on stage as a keynote speaker, and he's amazing at it. As you guys can hear in just a half hour I've been talking to him so far, the confidence, the storytelling, the ability to engage and have a great conversation. I mean, the clarity in your message is really strong. So this is not something that happened overnight. Personally, I love going to conferences. I soak up a lot of inspirational content, podcasts, in person as much as I can. Most importantly, when you go to those events, it's all about what do you take back with you, and actually apply to your life. So can you talk about being a keynote speaker and maybe the most memorable reaction that you've had from an audience? Something that really stuck out to you.
Yeah. And it actually happened really recently because I get great reactions all the time. Most of the time it's when I drag somebody up on stage. Um, and at one point I said, and this was about 1,200 people, mostly women. And I said, who among you is terrified but what I'm doing right now, that the idea of being on stage is terrified by that idea. And like 80% of the room raises their hands. And I said, and the rest of you aren't raising your hands because you're afraid I'm going to pick on you. And you're right. And so
Yeah.
I said to this woman in the front row, I said, would you be willing to come up here and do an experiment with me? And she was like, I said, how about if the whole audience encourages you? And the people just start cheering for her. So she comes up. Now, I had done an exercise where I said, what are 3 things you would want your best friend to say about you at your funeral? To sort of give you this perspective, like who do you want? How do you want to be remembered? It
Right.
was like an abbreviated form of writing your obituary. And so I brought her up on stage and I said, how do you feel? She goes, I could throw up. And I said, all right, we're going to do a breathing exercise. And I said, and I want you to do it with me. And I had her vibrate her vagus nerve, which is a
Mhm.
very, very specific thing. And you actually feel it change your physiology when we're talking in less than a minute. And
Mhm.
the audience could see it happening to her. And I said, all right, now what I want you to do is pretend you are your best friend speaking at your funeral and say those 3 things that you want her to say about you. So she didn't have to be herself on
Mhm.
stage. She got to be her friend. So that was the other trick. I had relaxed her. And then I gave her this chance to perform, but not have to be Angela.
Mhm.
And she
You
just
were
did it.
giving her those reps at the gym we were talking about, but
Yeah.
from an
And
outer
she
perspective.
just spoke in an even voice, heartfelt, to the point where people were choking up because she was actually talking about who she wanted to become. And the place went nuts because they saw in 2 minutes a complete transformation. And I said, by the way, I don't recommend, if you're going to do public speaking, don't start by doing it in front of 1,200 people like she did. But
Mhm.
how amazing was that? And that's that's the reality is now her life going forward is going to be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
This was her bungee jump. This was her skydiving moment.
Pivotal moment in her life that
Yeah.
she can always go back to. Speaking of going back to moments, if you can go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be? Something, just a monumental thing that, like, man, I wish I knew that sooner.
Stop worrying about what other people think, because they're not thinking about you anywhere near as much as you think they are. They're thinking about themselves. So ignore it. Let it go. Let it be their problem.
And now with social media, that's like times a million, right? I mean,
yes.
Back in the day, I mean, I'm just about to turn 40. So I played on playgrounds. I got outside pre-video games and also enjoyed video games too. But now the playground is everybody, the whole world. Everybody's connected. Every kid is connected, which is cool, but it's scary. And so, yeah, you're right. Like, not to really care or worry about, because we think, it is so true. Like, I think we care more about what people think of us. This is a generalization than what we think of ourselves. Like, our own self-belief has to trump everything else.
Yeah. And bold people they don't worry about it. There's 4 or 5 people whose opinions really matter to them. Their parents, their spouse, their partner, their best friend, and their coach or their coaches, their mentor. And then that individual, that expert that they went to for that specific advice. Everybody else, it's like, their judgment about me, that's none of my business. That's their issue. That's my problem. I'm not going to let their opinion or thoughts about me or my thoughts about their thoughts about me, what I imagine, stop me. And that's what bold people never do. They are never the ones stopping themselves. They are in go mode.
Be brave and bold in pursuit of your dreams. That's one of my favorite taglines. And that you're sharing that story right now. Looking back on your incredible journey, is there anything, if you could go back, maybe something you would change, or if you had the opportunity to double down on something, is there like a decision you made, something you're like, oh man, that's one thing I change, life looks even greater? Or if I can, man, that was the best decision I ever made, I'm going to double down on it. Anything come to mind?
So I'll give you the one of each. Because I still had a lot of reluctance to be outgoing when I had started the business, even though I was cold calling and door to door because I had to build the business. But I didn't engage that industry till 10 years later. I really didn't go, become an entity in that business and just go meet people and stuff. And I should have done that, because once I did, it propelled everything that I did. But the best thing I did that just built my boldness, and it's actually how I teach boldness in my book, is I started doing improv comedy.
Get out of here. That's awesome. Yeah.
And with the Groundlings in LA, which is where
so cool,
amazing people like Will Ferrell came from. And so, and it's,
are you still doing that, or is that something you did?
No, I did it for a long time, but nothing prepared me for speaking better than that, because I learned to trust that I could come up with something spontaneously, no matter what. And and when you're not trying to make people laugh and you're on stage, well, that's a heck of a lot easier than with improv. But improv starts very gradually. It builds.
It's like if you learn how to juggle, the first thing you learn how to juggle were burning torches. You're going to be a lot better juggler, a lot quicker.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Then when it's like, now do some apples, you're like, huh? Not even thinking about it. Yeah. This is a great conversation, man. I had a lot of fun. What I love about doing this show, I do honestly mean this. I have a beautiful 10-year-old daughter. My favorite moments of every week are my time when I'm with her. Second is recording these episodes. I love doing Mic'd Up. This is my passion project. And I started it back in 2019. and I had no idea what I was getting into and what I was going to do. But now over 280 amazing guests like yourself, where I do my homework, I'm ready to rock and roll, and the stories inspire me 10 times more than I could even prepare myself for. Or I just learned these, like, call them the golden nuggets, way more than what we could have prepared. Or, that you have a great book, but what I love about podcasts is the book doesn't answer your question back to you. If you're reading it and you're like, oh, I really want to know more about this part of his story, I'd have to call you or meet with you to know where the next part of that might go, right? Conversations like this, I really appreciate you being authentic and just open up about your story and sharing how you got started and some of the, the rough patches in there in 08, 09 that you worked through. Really appreciate you being on. We got a couple minutes before we're going to do a little rapid fire before you got to jump. Let's give some love to our sponsors. So the first one is my company, socialchameleon.us. You press record, we handle the rest. It's podcasting done for you. And we specifically work with businesses, so B2B. We work with a lot of business leaders, authors, people who are keynote speakers like Fred. And so if you check us out, you go to socialchameleon.us. You press record, we handle the rest. Podcasting done for you. I want to let you know that we do record, and Fred knows this because he uses it for his podcast too. Riverside.fm. They're one of our partners. We love recording on Riverside because it's easy to do and you get high quality audio and video. So our editing team has great content to work with and edit it into this podcast. And then if you're wondering, how does Mike get this out to Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, all the great players, it's through libsyn.com, libsyn.com. They've been around forever. Anytime I have an issue, which is very, very rarely, if I send them an email, their support team is super friendly, and I get it back from a specific person, and that same person follows up with me until it's handled. So great customer service, and that's how I get my podcasts out. But that's a great way to do it. libsyn.com. You can get your first month free with my promo code Be Great. It's all together. BE Great, capitals. All right, rapid fire with Fred. You ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, but I got to say about Riverside, the other thing that their magic clips now, where when you do a podcast, they provide you between 10 and 20 clips that are really good. They save an enormous amount of time. It's the best I've used that in terms of clipping from your videos. So that's a great new feature that they've added.
Yeah, if you guys are looking like to do it, podcasting, do it yourself, like there is a tool on there like Fred's talking about where it creates magic clips. We've used those, and then obviously we put our own magic touches on it at Social Chameleon. But yeah, I've seen Riverside like the first maybe V1, and what it is, I don't know what version it would be now, but it's been out for a number of years, and it's really incredible. It just keeps getting better and better. I'll say that. All right, rapid fire. We want to get to know you. We got like literally a handful of minutes left. You can answer all three of these or one of the three. Favorite book, podcast, and movie?
Oh, geez. The favorite book is Lonesome Dove as in terms of fiction. To me, it's like the great American novel. It just really talks about the end years of the West, but just incredibly long and well written. And then Man's Search for Meaning also, I think, it is such an important book for anyone to read and understand that if somebody can come out with a positive attitude after being in a concentration camp and watching most of his family die, then you're complaining for nothing about trivia. My favorite movie is Dead Poets Society. I think it's just an amazing message and just perfectly done, perfectly executed.
You didn't say podcast, but that actually brings up, you have a podcast. So give yourself a little plug.
Yeah. So my second favorite podcast, because I don't want to be so vain as to say it's my favorite, is the Superbold podcast, where I talk to people and I dive into the bold moves they made in their lives, and the times that they didn't, and what it cost them. And all sorts of interesting people like Mike and like Mike's guest. And I'm going to be mining Mike's guest list and,
Please do.
Seeing who would
let
be
me
great.
know who you're interested in getting on. We'll make it happen.
So,
again, I'm going to shorten this here, but because, unfortunately we're running out of time, but if you could have dinner with anybody, man, past, present, could be any field, who would that be and why?
I think Winston Churchill is probably one of the most fascinating people, but I would go back further. I would go back to Ben Franklin, because that guy was ridiculous. Yeah. What he could do, what he was doing. He retires early and then proceeds to invent bifocals and the lightning rod and the potbelly stove and the odometer. I mean, it was like crazy what this guy would come up with. We have electricity because of Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
And a country because he was negotiating with France and getting us, military support.
Right. It's pretty humbling when you go back and you look at a lot of the pioneers. We just produced a show this week celebrating 250 years of America's legacy. And it's like the icons, the cultural figures. And it wasn't just historical too. It was, there was some of the, the Abe Lincoln, George Washington, and then Ben Franklin and Edison, and all Henry Ford. Right. And then, the railroad, all that's good stuff. But it was also like musical pioneers and film and television. It was a really cool thing. It was humbling putting it together. It's like, look at what these guys have done, and with like little to no technology, what they were coming up with is really amazing.
Yeah, and if you look at what the signers of the Declaration of Independence, an awful lot of those guys did not end well. They were, hanged by the British and stuff. It was a serious commitment they made to launch this country.
Put your money where your mouth is, if you will, right? And I'll talk about bold. The boldest person who signed that thing would be Johnny Hancock.
That was a bold signature right there.
That was a bold signature. Hey guys, we say it all the time. Be great and be grateful. And I'm going to add one today. Be bold. Go out there, guys. Don't be afraid to be yourself. There's a great quote. Be you. Everyone else is taken. And I love it. I think it's Oscar Wilde. Not taking credit. Yeah. Not taking credit, but be you. Everyone else is taken. There's a million people trying to all be the same influencer online and all this stuff. Be you. Be the guy, the gal who has that cool personality. Whatever your pain and your trauma and all the stuff that you've gone through in your life makes you you. Go and be that person. That's who we want to cheer for. That's who we want to be excited about and root for your success. So if you're all the way here at the end, thank you guys for being with us. Fred, you're the man. That was a great interview, and I'd love to continue this conversation and just be a friend and celebrate your success. Be great, be grateful, be bold, and God bless. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Mike.